The courtroom was vast, its walls shimmering with alien crystals that pulsed faintly in sync with the Council's deliberations. Humanity had waited centuries for this moment, their chance to prove themselves worthy of joining the Galactic Council, an alliance of advanced civilizations spanning thousands of star systems. Representatives from Earth stood at the center of the room, their faces pale but determined. Among them was Dr. Elena Vasquez, a brilliant scientist whose life's work revolved around bridging humanity's gap with the stars. The council members loomed above on floating platforms, their forms as varied as the galaxies they represented. Some were insectoid creatures with iridescent wings. Others resembled towering masses of energy or gelatinous beings encased in liquid domes. At the head sat Chancellor Zinthar, a serpentine creature whose voice echoed like rolling thunder. "Humans," he began, his tone cold and clinical, "you have presented your case for inclusion. However, after careful consideration, we find you lacking." A collective gasp rippled through the human delegation. Lacking? How could they be found wanting when they had achieved so much? They had cured diseases, explored their solar system, and even made contact with extraterrestrial life. But none of that seemed to matter now. Zinthar continued, his glowing eyes fixed on the humans below. "Your species is volatile, prone to conflict and destruction. You lack the discipline required for galactic cooperation. Allowing you into our fold would jeopardize stability across the stars." His words struck like daggers, each one heavier than the last. "Therefore, by unanimous decision, humanity is hereby banished from all interstellar affairs. No trade, no alliances, no communication. You will remain confined to your home planet until further notice." The verdict hit like a tidal wave. Protest erupted among the humans. "This isn't fair," shouted Ambassador Carter, slamming his fist against the podium. "We've worked hard to earn our place here. We deserve a second chance." But the council showed no mercy. Their expressions, or what passed for expressions, remained impassive, unyielding. Elena clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay calm. She knew shouting wouldn't change anything. Instead, she locked eyes with Zinthar, her gaze steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "You think you can silence us," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You think shutting us out will stop us from reaching the stars. You're wrong. If you won't let us rise with you, then we'll rise above you." Her words hung in the air, sharp and defiant. For a moment, there was silence. Even the council seemed taken aback by her audacity. Then, without another word, the representatives were escorted out of the chamber, leaving behind only echoes of rejection. Back on Earth, news of the verdict spread like wildfire. Riots broke out in cities, while scientists and leaders scrambled to figure out what came next. Resources were dwindling, overpopulation was worsening, and hope felt like a distant memory. Yet amidst the despair, something else stirred. A spark of determination. Humanity might have been cast aside, but they weren't about to give up. In a dimly lit conference room, Elena addressed a small group of trusted advisors. Maps of nearby star systems covered the walls, and holographic projections flickered above the table. "They think we're weak," she said, her voice firm. "But we'll show them how wrong they are. We'll build our own empire, one stronger and brighter than anything they've ever seen." And so, the seeds of rebellion were sown. Banished by the Galactic Council, humanity prepared to carve their destiny among the stars, not as beggars, but as conquerors. The verdict from the Galactic Council had left Earth reeling, but humanity wasn't about to roll over and fade into obscurity. With resources dwindling and no help coming from the stars, survival became the top priority. Scientists, engineers, and leaders gathered in secret bunkers beneath the surface of Earth, brainstorming ways to escape their dying planet. It was here that Project Exodus was born, a bold plan to send humanity's brightest minds and hardest workers to colonize new worlds. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the forefront of this monumental effort, Her team worked tirelessly to reverse engineer pieces of alien technology scavenged during humanity's brief encounters with extraterrestrial visitors. These fragments were crude and incomplete, but they held the key to faster-than-light travel, a necessity if humanity hoped to reach habitable planets light years away. "We don't have time for perfection," Elena told her exhausted crew one sleepless night. "We need something that works now." The result was a fleet of rickety ships cobbled together from whatever materials could be salvaged. Some vessels were little more than cargo haulers retrofitted with experimental engines, while others were patched-up military cruisers stripped of weapons to make room for settlers. None of them inspired much confidence, but they were all humanity had. Each ship carried thousands of people: farmers, doctors, teachers, soldiers, and families brave enough to leave everything behind in search of a better future. Captain Marcus Kane was chosen to lead the fleet. A decorated war veteran with a haunted past, Marcus wasn't thrilled about being handed command of what he called a flying junkyard. But his tactical brilliance and unshakable resolve made him the obvious choice. Standing on the bridge of the flagship Odyssey, he stared out at the Ragdig Armada preparing to depart. "This is either going to be the greatest adventure in human history," he muttered to himself, "or the biggest disaster." As the countdown began, emotions ran high among the settlers. For many, leaving Earth felt like abandoning their home forever. Families clung to each other, tears streaming down their faces as they boarded the ships. Others looked forward with steely determination, refusing to let fear cloud their vision of a brighter tomorrow. Among them was Amara Lynn, a young prodigy engineer who had already earned a reputation for her ingenuity. She spent the final hours before launch running diagnostics on the fleet's fragile engines, determined to ensure their survival. Finally, the moment arrived. Engines roared to life, shaking the ground beneath the launch pads. One by one, the ships ascended into the sky, leaving trails of fire and smoke in their wake. Billions of eyes watched from Earth as the fleet disappeared into the void, carrying humanity's last hope for survival. But challenges awaited almost immediately. The rudimentary FTL drives malfunctioned frequently, forcing emergency repairs mid-flight. Food shortages sparked arguments among settlers, while cramped quarters bred tension and paranoia. Worse still, not everyone agreed on where they should go or how they should govern themselves once they arrived. Factions formed within the fleet, each advocating different strategies for survival. Despite these hardships, there were moments of unity. When one ship suffered critical damage, nearby vessels pooled resources to keep it operational. Sing-alongs erupted in communal areas, lifting spirits even in the darkest times. And every night, passengers gazed out at the endless expanse of stars, reminding themselves why they had embarked on this perilous journey. For now, uncertainty loomed large. No one knew what lay ahead, or if they would even survive long enough to find a new home. But one thing was certain: humanity had taken its first step toward carving out a destiny among the stars. Banished by the Galactic Council, they were determined to prove that rejection was just the beginning, not the end. Months turned into years as the fleet drifted through the cold, silent void of space. The journey was grueling, testing the limits of both technology and human endurance. Engines sputtered, food supplies dwindled, and tempers flared among the settlers. Yet despite the hardships, hope refused to die. Every day brought them closer to their goal, a new home where humanity could start anew. It was during one of Captain Marcus Kane's routine patrols that the miracle happened. Scanning a distant star system, the sensors on his ship picked up something extraordinary: a lush green planet orbiting a golden sun. Its atmosphere was breathable, its surface teeming with water and vegetation. It was perfect, too perfect, almost like it had been waiting for them all along. When the data reached the rest of the fleet, cheers erupted across every ship. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was real excitement in the air. The settlers named the planet Elysium, after the mythical paradise from Earth's ancient myths. As the fleet entered orbit, they marveled at its beauty. Rolling plains stretched beneath clouds that shimmered like silk, while rivers sparkled under the warm sunlight. It looked like a dream come true, a second chance for humanity to thrive. But not everyone was convinced. "This feels wrong," muttered Dr. Elena Vasquez as she studied the readings aboard the Odyssey. She couldn't shake the feeling that something about Elysium seemed off. Why was such a pristine planet completely uninhabited? Could it really be coincidence that it appeared just when humanity needed it most? Others dismissed her concerns, eager to believe in their good fortune. "Maybe the universe gave us a break for once," said Marcus with a shrug. "We've earned it." Landing parties were quickly organized, and soon the settlers began exploring their new home. Amara Lynn led a team tasked with setting up temporary shelters and testing the soil for farming. Her hands worked tirelessly, assembling modular habitats and planting seeds brought from Earth. Despite her youthful appearance, Amara commanded respect with her sharp mind and relentless determination. Under her guidance, the colony began to take shape. As weeks passed, however, strange things started happening. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation, and some settlers reported hearing faint whispers in the wind. Then came the discovery. Buried beneath the fertile soil were fragments of alien artifacts. Smooth, metallic objects etched with intricate patterns that glowed faintly when touched. No one recognized the symbols, but their presence raised unsettling questions. Had Elysium once belonged to another civilization? And if so, what had happened to them? Tensions grew within the colony as factions debated how to proceed. Some argued that the artifacts should be left alone, fearing they might trigger unforeseen consequences. Others, including Amara, believed studying them could unlock advanced technologies capable of accelerating humanity's progress. "If we don't use this opportunity," she insisted during a heated meeting, "we'll never catch up to the Galactic Council." Meanwhile, Captain Kane kept watch over the skies, half expecting trouble to arrive at any moment. He didn't trust Elysium or its secrets, but he knew one thing for sure: humanity wasn't backing down now. They'd fought too hard to get here, and they weren't going to let fear stop them from building a future. For better or worse, Elysium was theirs, and as the settlers worked tirelessly to transform it into their new home, the artifacts served as a constant reminder. Nothing truly came without a price. As humanity settled into their new home on Elysium, life began to take shape. Crops sprouted from the fertile soil, habitats expanded across the plains, and children played under alien skies for the first time. But beneath the surface of this newfound prosperity, unease simmered like a storm waiting to break. The alien artifacts buried across Elysium became an obsession for many settlers. Amara Lynn spent countless hours studying them, her makeshift lab cluttered with tools, notes, and glowing fragments. The symbols etched into the metal seemed to shift when no one was looking, as though alive. When touched, they emitted faint vibrations that sent shivers down spines. Despite warnings from skeptics, Amara grew convinced these relics held answers, perhaps even blueprints for technology far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. But not everyone shared her enthusiasm. Dr. Elena Vasquez remained wary, her instincts telling her something wasn't right. "We don't know who left these things here, or why," she argued during one heated discussion. "For all we know, they're traps meant to lure us in." Her concerns fell on deaf ears, however. Desperation drove many settlers to see the artifacts as humanity's ticket to survival, and maybe revenge against the Galactic Council. Then came the signals. Late one night, while monitoring deep space communications, engineers picked up strange transmissions emanating from beyond Elysium's orbit. The messages were fragmented, almost musical in tone, but undeniably artificial. Some settlers believed it could be a distress call from another civilization. Others thought it might be a probe sent by the Galactic Council to spy on them. Captain Marcus Kane ordered scouts to investigate, sending out drones equipped with sensors and cameras. The drones never returned. Days later, eerie footage arrived back at the colony, a distorted video feed showing shadowy figures moving through the void. They weren't ships or machines, but something else entirely. Their forms flickered like static, defying explanation. Before the drones went dark, they captured glimpses of massive structures floating in the darkness, jagged towers wrapped in tendrils of light, pulsating with energy. It was clear this wasn't just random debris. It was someone's outpost. Panic spread quickly among the settlers. Were they being watched? Had they stumbled into territory claimed by a hostile force? Conspiracy theories ran rampant. Some claimed the Galactic Council had lured them to Elysium intentionally, using the artifacts as bait. Others whispered about ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy long before the Council existed. Amara refused to let fear stop her work. She pored over the data collected by the lost drones, piecing together clues hidden within the transmissions. Slowly, a pattern emerged, a language embedded in the signals. With each breakthrough, she grew more certain. Whatever, or whoever, was out there wanted to communicate, but whether their intentions were friendly remained unclear. Tensions reached a boiling point when a group of settlers discovered more artifacts near the colony's edge. Unlike the ones found earlier, these glowed brighter and emitted low hums that resonated in people's chests. One settler, overcome with curiosity, touched a fragment and collapsed screaming moments later. Medics rushed him to the infirmary, but he slipped into a coma, muttering incomprehensible words in his sleep. Captain Kane called an emergency meeting. "We need to decide what we're dealing with here," he said, slamming his fist on the table. "Are these artifacts gifts, weapons, or warnings? And what about those things in the void? We can't ignore them forever." Alina urged caution. "If we dig deeper without understanding the risks, we could unleash something we can't control." But Amara countered passionately. "If we don't take the risk, we'll stay stuck here, vulnerable and afraid. This is our chance to rise above." As arguments rage, one thing became painfully obvious. Humanity stood on the brink of discovery and disaster. Whatever secrets lay hidden in the shadows of space, they were closer than anyone realized. And once uncovered, there would be no turning back. Years passed, and humanity's foothold on Elysium grew stronger. The colony transformed from a fragile settlement into a thriving hub of innovation and cooperation. Under Amara Lynn's guidance, settlers unlocked new uses for the alien artifacts, reverse engineering their technology to create advancements that rivaled even the Galactic Council's finest achievements. Energy generators powered by the glowing fragments provided limitless power, while terraforming machines turned barren wastelands into fertile fields. Slowly but surely, humanity began to rebuild, not just as survivors, but as pioneers. Yet progress came at a cost. Factions within the colony continued to clash over how best to use the artifacts. Some, led by cautious voices like Dr. Elena Vasquez, argued for restraint, fearing the unknown dangers lurking in the void. Others, inspired by Amara's boldness, pushed for rapid expansion and exploration. Captain Marcus Kane found himself caught between these opposing forces, struggling to maintain order as tensions simmered beneath the surface. Amidst this chaos, a new idea took root, an idea that would change everything. During a heated council meeting, Amara proposed uniting all human colonies under one banner, the Human Federation. "We're stronger together," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "If we want to stand against whatever's out there, and maybe even challenge the Galactic Council, we need unity. We can't afford division anymore." The proposal ignited fierce debate. Skeptics warned that centralizing power could lead to tyranny, while supporters hailed it as humanity's only hope for survival. In the end, necessity won out. With resources stretched thin and threats looming both inside and outside their borders, the settlers agreed to form the Federation. Elections were held, and Sofia Alvarez, a former refugee turned charismatic leader, was chosen as its first president. Under Sofia's leadership, the Federation flourished. Trade routes connected distant outposts, research hubs buzzed with activity, and defensive fleets patrolled the skies above Elysium. Humanity's ingenuity shone brighter than ever before, blending cutting-edge technology with lessons learned from Earth's mistakes. For the first time since their banishment, people dared to dream of a future where they weren't just surviving, they were thriving. But the Galactic Council wasn't blind to humanity's resurgence. Spies infiltrated the Federation, disguised as traitors or refugees, gathering intelligence on their advancements. Rumors spread of secret meetings among council members, debating whether humanity posed a threat or an opportunity. Some factions within the council saw potential allies in the resourceful humans, while others viewed them as pests that needed extermination. One day, those fears manifested in the form of sabotage. A critical energy grid powering the Federation's capital city mysteriously failed, plunging thousands into darkness. Panic erupted as engineers scrambled to restore power, only to discover traces of alien tech embedded in the system. Tech far more advanced than anything humanity had developed. It was clear someone had tampered with their infrastructure. Captain Kane launched an investigation, determined to uncover the truth. His team traced the source of the sabotage to a group of infiltrators posing as settlers. When confronted, the spies revealed chilling details. The Galactic Council had grown uneasy about humanity's rapid progress. They feared what might happen if such a volatile species gained access to ancient technologies capable of reshaping the galaxy. News of the betrayal sparked outrage across the Federation. Calls for retaliation echoed through the halls of government, but President Alvarez urged patience. "This is exactly what they want," she said during an emergency broadcast. "They're trying to provoke us, to make us act rashly, but we won't fall for their games. Instead, we'll show them what true strength looks like, not aggression, but resilience." As humanity rallied behind their new leader, whispers of rebellion began to spread. The Federation wasn't just building a home. They were forging a weapon, one aimed squarely at the heart of the Galactic Council. Banished once, humanity now stood ready to reclaim their place among the stars, not as beggars, but as equals, and perhaps someday soon, as rulers. The fragile peace that had allowed the human Federation to flourish was shattered one fateful morning. A distress signal crackled through the communication arrays aboard the Federation's orbital defense station. It came from a remote mining outpost on the edge of Elysium's territory, a settlement known for extracting rare minerals used in advanced technology. The message was short and frantic. "They're here. They've attacked. Help us." Captain Marcus Kane wasted no time. Leading a squadron of heavily armed fighters, he raced toward the coordinates, his mind racing with questions. Who were they? Pirates? Rogue factions? Or something worse? As they approached the outpost, the scene that greeted them chilled even Kane's battle-hardened heart. Ships unlike anything humanity had seen before loomed over the ruins of the colony. Sleek and angular, they bristled with weapons that glowed ominously as they fired upon fleeing settlers. Kane's squadron engaged immediately, their smaller, nimble craft darting between the enemy vessels. The attackers fought with precision, their movements coordinated and ruthless. But humanity had learned much since its banishment. Using unconventional tactics honed during years of hardship, Kane's pilots exploited weaknesses in the enemy formation, targeting vulnerable points and forcing them into retreat. By the time reinforcements arrived, the invaders had fled, leaving behind smoldering wreckage and unanswered questions. Back at Federation headquarters, President Sofia Alvarez convened an emergency meeting. Salvaged debris from the attack revealed unsettling truths. These ships bore markings associated with the Galactic Council, or more specifically, one of its most aggressive member species, the Vrin. Known for their militaristic expansionism, the Vrin had long despised humanity's defiance. This attack wasn't random. It was a calculated strike meant to cripple the Federation's growing influence. "This is war," Elena Vasquez said grimly, holding up a piece of alien circuitry recovered from the battlefield. "They're testing us, seeing how far we'll push back." But not everyone agreed on how to respond. Some council members argued for immediate retaliation, urging the Federation to launch a counteroffensive against the Vrin. Others, including Elena, cautioned restraint. "We don't know what resources they have or how many allies they can call upon," she warned. "If we act recklessly, we risk exposing ourselves to greater danger." Amara Lynn, however, saw opportunity amid the chaos. "This proves we're a threat to them," she said passionately. "Why else would they send mercenaries to destroy us? We need to show them we won't back down. If we strike back hard enough, maybe we can force the council to negotiate." In the end, a compromise was reached. While open warfare was avoided, Kane led a covert mission to infiltrate a suspected Vryn supply depot hidden in a nearby asteroid belt. The operation was risky, relying on stealth rather than brute force. Disguising their ships with stolen tech scavenged from previous battles, Kane's team slipped past patrols undetected. Inside the depot, they discovered stockpiles of weapons destined for further attacks on Federation colonies. With little time to spare, Kane planted explosives throughout the facility. As his team retreated, the depot erupted in a fiery explosion visible from light years away. News of the successful sabotage spread quickly, boosting morale across the Federation. For the first time, humanity had struck a blow against the forces aligned against them. Yet victory came at a cost. The attack only deepened divisions within the Federation. Hawks demanded escalation, while Doves pleaded for diplomacy. Meanwhile, whispers of betrayal hinted at spies still lurking among them, feeding information to the council. Tensions mounted as leaders debated their next move. President Alvarez addressed the people, her voice steady but resolute. "Today, we showed the galaxy that humanity will not be bullied. But this is just the beginning. To secure our future, we must remain united, not just in strength, but in purpose." As the Federation prepared for whatever came next, one thing was clear. Humanity's defiance had ignited a spark in the stars. Whether it would burn brightly or consume them remained to be seen. The aftermath of the Vryn attack left humanity teetering on a knife's edge. While the Federation celebrated their small victory, unease lingered in the hearts of its leaders. President Sofia Alvarez knew that retaliation alone wouldn't solve the larger problem. They needed answers. Why had the Galactic Council sent mercenaries? What were they hiding? And what role did the mysterious artifacts play in all of this? Amara Lynn became obsessed with finding those answers. For weeks, she buried herself in her lab, running endless simulations and decrypting fragments of data extracted from the alien relics. Her breakthrough came late one night when she stumbled upon a hidden layer within the symbols etched into the artifacts. The patterns weren't random. They formed a complex code, a language unlike anything humanity had encountered before. With trembling hands, Amara fed the decoded information into a holographic interface. Slowly, images began to materialize. A sprawling city swallowed by flames, skies torn apart by massive rifts, and shadowy figures wielding weapons that defied physics. But it wasn't just destruction. There were also warnings. Text scrawled across the screen in fragmented phrases. "Do not awaken. Cosmic balance broken. They will return." Her heart raced as realization dawned. These weren't just records of some ancient civilization. They were prophecies. The artifacts belonged to a race wiped out millennia ago by the Galactic Council itself. Their crime? Discovering forbidden knowledge about the fabric of reality. The Council had exterminated them to cover their tracks, but couldn't destroy every trace of their existence. Now, humanity held the key to uncovering the truth and potentially unleashing forces beyond comprehension. Amara rushed to share her findings with President Alvarez and Dr. Elena Vasquez. The three gathered in a secure chamber deep beneath Elysium's surface, far from prying eyes. "This changes everything," Elena said after reviewing the data. "If we expose this, it could shatter the Council's authority. But if we misuse it, we risk repeating their mistakes." Sophia leaned forward, her expression resolute. "We can't sit on this. This isn't just our history, it's the galaxy's. If we want justice, we need to make sure everyone knows what the Council has done." But deciding how to use the revelation proved divisive. Some council members argued for broadcasting the evidence across the galaxy, exposing the council's crimes to all civilizations under their rule. Others feared such an act would provoke open war, leaving humanity vulnerable. Captain Marcus Kane voiced his concerns bluntly. If we go public, we better be ready to fight. Because once the council realizes we know, they won't stop until we're silenced. As debates rage, Amara worked tirelessly to refine the message. She created a series of holographic projections, combining the artifact data with recorded footage of the Vryn attack, presenting undeniable proof of the Council's aggression. It was risky, but necessary. Humanity couldn't afford to remain silent any longer. Finally, President Alvarez made her decision. In a live broadcast transmitted to every corner of the Federation and secretly relayed to unaligned worlds, the truth was unveiled. Images of the ancient civilization's downfall played alongside stark accusations against the Council. They called us primitive, Sophia declared, her voice echoing with conviction. But they are the ones who cling to power through fear and violence. We stand today not as victims, but as witnesses to their tyranny. Together, we will build a future where no species is erased or oppressed. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Across the galaxy, oppressed factions stirred, emboldened by humanity's defiance. Sympathetic species reached out to the Federation, offering support and resources. Meanwhile, the Council descended into chaos, its members scrambling to contain the fallout. For humanity, the stakes had never been higher. They had taken a stand, but now they faced the consequences. As whispers of rebellion spread among the stars, one question loomed large. Had humanity ignited a revolution or unleashed a reckoning? The revelation of the Galactic Council's atrocities sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Humanity's bold broadcast had ignited a firestorm, fracturing alliances and sparking rebellions among oppressed species under the Council's rule. For the first time in millennia, the Council's iron grip began to loosen. Yet this newfound hope came at a cost. Retaliation was inevitable. Within days, warships from multiple Council-aligned species descended upon Elysium, their weapons trained on humanity's capital city. The Federation scrambled to prepare for battle, but they were vastly outnumbered. Despite their technological advancements, humanity knew they couldn't win through sheer force alone. Instead, they relied on strategy, ingenuity, and the element of surprise. Captain Marcus Kane led the defense effort, coordinating fleets of fighters and deploying experimental weaponry reverse-engineered from the alien artifacts. One such weapon, the Nova Pulse Cannon, was capable of temporarily disabling entire squadrons of enemy ships by disrupting their energy systems. Though untested in combat, it became humanity's ace in the hole. The battle erupted with devastating intensity. Enemy vessels swarmed the skies above Elysium, raining down plasma fire and orbital bombardments. Settlements burned, and civilians fled underground as alarms blared across the planet. But humanity refused to yield. Using guerrilla tactics, Kane's pilots lured larger Council ships into traps, ambushing them with concentrated bursts of firepower. Every victory, no matter how small, bolstered morale and inspired resistance fighters across the galaxy. Meanwhile, Amara Lynn worked tirelessly behind the scenes, monitoring the battlefield from her command center. She noticed a pattern in the Council's attacks. Their fleets avoided certain areas of space, almost as if something frightened even them. Digging deeper, she discovered faint traces of residual energy emanating from those regions, energy that matched the signatures of the ancient civilization's technology. Realizing this could be humanity's edge, she relayed the information to Kane. Use the artifacts, she urged during a tense comlink. Whatever scared them before can scare them again. Taking her advice, Kane ordered a risky maneuver. A team of engineers retrofitted several damaged Federation ships with artifact-based devices designed to amplify their energy output. When activated, these devices created massive rifts in space-time, destabilizing the surrounding area. As the Council fleet advanced, Kane triggered the devices, unleashing chaos. Ships were torn apart by gravitational anomalies, while others retreated in disarray. But the conflict wasn't without sacrifice. Dozens of Federation pilots lost their lives holding the line, including some of Kane's closest comrades. Each loss weighed heavily on him, yet he pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure meant extinction for his people. Back on Elysium, President Sofia Alvarez addressed the survivors, her voice steady despite the destruction around her. "This is what they fear about us," she shouted over the roar of distant explosions. "Not our weapons, not our numbers, but our refusal to give up. They thought banishing us would silence us forever, but we've proven them wrong." As the tide turned in humanity's favor, cracks began to form within the Council itself. Some member species questioned the morality of attacking a fledgling civilization, especially after learning the truth about their own history. Others saw humanity's resilience as an opportunity to break free from the Council's control. Secret negotiations took place between the Federation and sympathetic factions, forging fragile alliances that tipped the scales further in humanity's favor. By the time the dust settled, the Council's forces had withdrawn, leaving behind smoldering ruins and unanswered questions. Humanity had survived, but at great cost. Thousands lay dead or displaced, and scars marred the once pristine landscape of Elysium. Yet amidst the devastation stood a beacon of hope. Humanity had fought back against impossible odds and emerged victorious. Now, as whispers of rebellion spread among the stars, one thing was clear. The age of the Galactic Council's dominance was ending, and the rise of a new empire had begun. The war against the Galactic Council raged on, but humanity's defiance had sparked something far greater than anyone anticipated. Across the galaxy, oppressed species rose up in rebellion, inspired by Earth's courage to stand against tyranny. Planets once loyal to the Council declared independence, while others openly sided with the Human Federation. The galaxy was no longer a unified empire. It was a fractured battleground, and humanity found itself at the center of it all. But amidst the chaos, an ominous warning loomed over everyone, the prophecy encoded in the alien artifacts. Amara Lynn had deciphered more fragments, revealing that the ancient civilization hadn't just been destroyed. They had unleashed a cosmic event so catastrophic that it nearly tore the galaxy apart. The rifts now appearing across star systems weren't random. They were echoes of that disaster, growing stronger with each passing day. "These aren't natural phenomena," Amara explained during an emergency meeting with President Sofia Alvarez and her advisors. "They're fractures in space-time, caused by tampering with forces we don't fully understand. If we don't stabilize them, entire star systems will collapse." Dr. Elena Vasquez added grimly, "And if the Council thinks destroying us will solve their problems, they're wrong. This is bigger than any one species." Determined to prevent another catastrophe, Amara proposed Project Nova, a daring initiative to construct a network of stabilizing satellites powered by the artifact technology. These satellites would anchor the rifts, preventing them from spreading further. It was a monumental task requiring resources humanity barely possessed and cooperation from allies who were still wary of trusting them completely. While Amara worked tirelessly to design the satellites, Captain Marcus Kane led covert missions to secure key locations for deployment. Each mission was fraught with danger, as remnants of the Council's forces ambushed his teams at every turn. Yet despite heavy losses, Kane refused to back down. "If we fail here," he told his crew before one particularly perilous operation, "everything we fought for dies with us." Meanwhile, President Alvarez sought to unite the galaxy under a common cause. She reached out to rebel factions and sympathetic council members, urging them to set aside old grudges and focus on survival. "This isn't about power or revenge anymore," she said during a Galactic Summit broadcast lived to billions. "It's about saving our home, the only galaxy we have left." Her words resonated deeply, rallying diverse species to join the effort. Together, they pooled resources, shared knowledge, and worked side by side to build the Nova Network. For the first time in centuries, Unity replaced division as civilizations came together not out of fear, but hope. As the first satellite launched into orbit above a collapsing star system, Amara watched anxiously from mission control. When the device activated, the rift shuddered and stabilized. Proof that humanity's gamble had paid off. Cheers erupted across Elysium and beyond. But Amara knew the fight wasn't over yet. Dozens of rifts remained, each more unstable than the last. Yet even as progress continued, unease lingered. The Council hadn't given up. They couldn't afford to. Rumors spread of secret experiments aimed at weaponizing the rifts themselves, turning them into tools of destruction. Humanity realized that defeating the Council wouldn't be enough. They needed to dismantle its corrupt foundation entirely. "We've started something we can't stop now," Alina warned quietly, staring at maps of the expanding rifts. The galaxy won't forgive mistakes this time. For humanity, the stakes had never been higher. They had risen from banishment to become leaders of a coalition fighting to save existence itself. But as the prophecy awakened and the rifts grew closer to consuming everything, one question burned brighter than ever. Could they truly rewrite the stars? Or were they doomed to repeat history? The final battle for the galaxy's future unfolded not with a single decisive clash, but through countless acts of courage, sacrifice, and unity. Humanity's Project Nova became the cornerstone of their fight, not just to stabilize the rifts, but to prove that cooperation could overcome even the darkest threats. As satellites launched into orbit around collapsing star systems, hope spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Species once divided by fear and mistrust now worked side by side, united under the banner of survival. Captain Marcus Kane led one of the most critical missions of the war, deploying the last satellite in a volatile region near the Galactic Council's central hub. The area was heavily guarded, its defenses bolstered by desperate Council forces determined to protect their crumbling empire. "This isn't just about stopping the rifts," Kane told his crew as they approached the target zone. "It's about showing them we're done playing by their rules." The mission was perilous. Enemy ships swarmed the skies, forcing Kane's team to rely on quick thinking and unconventional tactics. Using decoy drones and artifact-powered disruptors, they created chaos among the Council fleet, buying precious seconds to deploy the satellite. When it finally activated, the rift shuddered and stabilized, a moment of triumph that echoed across the galaxy. Meanwhile, President Sofia Alvarez brokered alliances with rebel factions and disillusioned Council members, dismantling the oppressive regime piece by piece. In a historic summit held aboard the Federation flagship Odyssey, representatives from dozens of species gathered to draft a new charter for galactic governance. Gone were the days of domination and exploitation. The new order would be built on principles of equality, innovation, and mutual respect. "We've paid dearly for this chance," Alvarez said during her closing address. "Let us honor those sacrifices by building something better, not just for ourselves, but for every being who calls this galaxy home." As the Council crumbled, humanity rose to prominence, not as conquerors, but as leaders. Their ingenuity, resilience, and willingness to embrace diversity earned them the trust of countless civilizations. Dr. Elena Vasquez oversaw efforts to preserve the knowledge contained within the alien artifacts, ensuring their power would never again be misused. Amara Lynn, hailed as a hero, dedicated herself to advancing technology responsibly, her work inspiring generations to come. Yet even as peace settled over the galaxy, reminders of the past lingered. The rifts, though stabilized, served as permanent scars, testaments to the dangers of unchecked ambition. Humanity vowed never to forget the lessons learned, that progress must always be tempered with wisdom, and strength is meaningless without compassion. Years later, standing on the balcony of Elysium's capital city, President Alvarez gazed out at the thriving metropolis below. Children played in parks nourished by alien soil, while ships from distant worlds docked at orbital stations above. It was a scene unimaginable during humanity's darkest days, a testament to what could be achieved when differences were set aside for the greater good. "Do you think we'll ever see another council?" Elena asked softly, joining her on the balcony. "No," Sophia replied firmly. "Not like before. We've shown the galaxy there's another way. One where no voice is silenced, and no dream is too big." In the end, humanity's journey wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. Banished by the Galactic Council, they had risen higher than anyone thought possible, proving that true greatness lies not in ruling others, but in lifting everyone together. And so, beneath alien skies, humanity stood as a beacon of hope, ready to guide the galaxy toward a brighter tomorrow.